You don't often see a Republican and a Democrat standing side by side doing an interview. The two of you have introduced this bipartisan legislation. And Congressman Lawler, as you mentioned, it imposes new sanctions targeting Iranian oil imports. How confident are you, Congressman Moskowitz, that this is actually going, if it passes the House, that it actually is going to become law?
Well, listen, I think you're going to see extreme bipartisan support tomorrow on this piece of legislation. It has almost 90 Democrats that have co-sponsored this. I expect an overwhelming majority of Republicans to vote for it as well. So it's going to get the 2/3 it needs to pass on suspension. And so I think the Senate should take this up. I think we need to send a strong message to Iran and the world that we're not going to tolerate the world's largest sponsor of terror getting around current sanctions, making money by selling their oil to China, and then funding Hezbollah and Hamas and other destabilizing forces around the world. There is no doubt right now that Hamas, Russia, China, North Korea are all talking to each other. And so this is extremely important. We have to cut off all sorts of financing, and this is one way to do that.
Congressman Lawler, what's your message to the Senate on getting this done?
Look, China is the biggest purchaser of Iranian petroleum, and Iranian petroleum sales are up 59% over the last 3 years. They are using these funds to fund terrorism, to fund Hamas, to fund Hezbollah, to fund other terrorist organizations with the sole purpose of wiping Israel off the face of the earth. We need to impose stricter sanctions on the buyers of Iranian petroleum, starting with China. These secondary sanctions are critically important. And so I think it is time for Congress to act, to make it very clear to China, to Russia, to Iran, that we will not tolerate their malign influence in the world and the conduct that they have engaged in that has undermined and destabilized the free world, and especially with the most recent terrorist attacks on the state of Israel and the attempt to annihilate the Jewish people. We will not tolerate it. We will not stand for it. And that's why it's imperative that Congress pass the SHIP Act and the Biden administration sign it into law.